Dumelang, Sanbonani, greetings to you all, family. Welcome to another YouTube video with me, your host, Mathix. Now, this is the second video of the year, and I hope that you are doing great so far. I hope that your year has been filled with nothing but laughter and joy. So, yeah, we at it again. We had another cycle around the sun. It's very deep. It's not gonna get any easier, but we are definitely gonna get stronger. We're gonna get more enlightened. We're gonna get more conscious as we go along this beautiful journey of life. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that people have been asking me to talk about for a while, but I've been putting it off until now. Since it's a new year, I've decided that we should finally have this particular conversation. Today we're going to be talking about DMT, we're going to be talking about psychedelic mushrooms, and we're also going to be talking about ayahuasca. Ooh, oh my God. Oh no, the drugs. Oh no, Mathix, drugs, these are drugs. Why are you talking about drugs? I find it very hilarious that we human beings have taken things that we find naturally on the earth, literally things that we just find growing, and then we classify them under drugs, as if saying, oh no, God made these drugs, they bad. Whoever touches this, he should go to jail for 50 years. Whoever smokes this. It's very interesting. But man, with humans, there's always an agenda, especially with like governments and things like that. There's always an agenda to control people's consciousness, because once people start thinking on levels beyond the mundane, then they start to see the illusion. They can start to see the matrix, and then people begin to to break out of it, and then they cannot be controlled by the government, because now people begin to make their own decisions. Now, this brings me to the whole subject of DMT, magic mushrooms, and ayahuasca. Now, first, let's start off by defining or bringing forth what this DMT is. So now, what is DMT? DMT is what is known as dimethyltryptamine, and it is a substance, it is a chemical that is found all throughout nature. It's found in animals, it's found in plants, and most importantly for this conversation, it is found naturally in your brain. So your body naturally produces this substance called DMT. Now, for many years, scientists have wondered, what is the function of DMT? What is it? What is it there for? Because it's released in certain quantities that they couldn't really figure out what its function is. Now, when it comes to DMT, there are enzymes in your body that actually inhibit DMT. So there's something in your body that inhibits DMT. So now, what does DMT do? Now, throughout the years, especially in the 60s, there were scientists who were studying the use of psychedelic mushrooms. They were studying, people were in the so-called hippie movements. People were partaking in LSD. People were doing all of these things that was so-called expanding the mind. In fact, not even so-called, these things were actually expanding the mind, and then they got classified under Schedule 1 drugs, meaning they the worst of drugs. But then, as I said, these things are found naturally throughout nature. So it's very weird that you call something that you produce naturally a drug. So now, dimethyltryptamine, that's what it is. It's a molecule, it's a compound that is found in the brain, and it is responsible for so-called mystical experiences. When people have what they call near-death experiences, it's been found that there's actually been a large amount of DMT that is released within the brain at that specific time. So when someone says that, oh, my life flashed before my eyes, that is the release of DMT. Because what you need to understand is that, number one, you are a temple of the One Most High. You are a temple of God, right? So now you are made up of intelligent materials. You have levels inside of you. Just as you have atoms, those atoms make up molecules, molecules make up cells, the cells make up tissues, the tissues make up organs, and the whole organs make up a whole organism, which is you. You know, you have systems. You have the skeletal system, the muscle, you have the nervous system. You have many systems inside of you. And now there are things that are responsible for the functioning of these particular levels or these particular systems inside of you. Now, we're going to talk about the glands. The glands are one of the most important ones, because each of the what you know of as the energy field, or what you have come to learn of as the chakra system, the glands in your body are responsible for that. So you would have your adrenal glands, you would have your thymus gland, you would have your thyroid, you would have the pineal gland, which is the main component in the release of DMT. So they say that DMT, there's a book that you should research after this, and many other documentaries that have been released on this whole subject of DMT. A great book which actually brought the whole thing about DMT into the light again was a book by a man called Rick Strassman. You should check that out. It's called DMT, the Spirit Molecule. Now, it's called the Spirit Molecule because, number one, it is released within the pineal gland, and the pineal gland, it is known to be what they call the third eye, which is the gateway into other dimension, which is the root word in dimethyltryptamine, which is that molecule which allows you to tap into different dimensions, not only of the universe, but most importantly of yourself. Remember, you have dimensions within yourself. Now, when you sleep, DMT is also released, and it is also what allows you to travel in between dimensions. You see, it is what allows you to travel between dimensions. So now when you partake or when you ingest, let's start off with magic mushrooms. Magic mushrooms have a chemical inside of them known as psilocybin. Psilocybin. So they call psilocybin magic mushrooms. So now, when you ingest psilocybin or magic mushrooms, your body synthesizes that, and then that psilocybin is turned into something called psilocin. And that is actually now what allows you to trip and to hallucinate, because what that does is that it inhibits that enzyme that we spoke about that blocks the release of DMT. So now that thing that blocks, the enzymes that block the release of DMT in high quantities, when you ingest magic mushrooms and then it's synthesized into psilocin from psilocybin, that is prohibited. And so now DMT is released in much more larger quantities, which is now where you begin to hallucinate and you begin to see reality from a different perspective. Now, I personally, when it comes to ayahuasca or DMT in its raw form, haven't experimented with that. It is only in the mushroom worlds that I have dabbled in quite a number of times. And what was beautiful for me with that is that when I had my initial awakening into the spiritual mysteries, it was very hectic. I had like 3 Kundalini episodes, that had me in, oh man, it just had me gone out of the world. And so when the time came for the synchronization and magic mushrooms were brought into my reality, when I began to experiment with them, I actually realized that it is no different from the mystical experience. It is almost the same thing. It's just that now the raw form of Kundalini, when it comes uninduced by any external substances, it is much more powerful. In fact, that is what you should aim for. And what you should understand about also these substances is that the states that you reach while on them are states that mystics have been able to reach. And when I'm talking about mystics, I'm not talking about people just in the ancient of days or in the ancient times. We're talking about people walking and living and breathing today. Your neighbor could be partaking in these particular rituals, such as deep breathing meditations, which actually activate the third eye, which causes it to release DMT in your brain. So you can reach these states that are induced by these particular hallucinogens. So you could do that through certain breathing techniques and through certain breathing meditations, which I will teach to you in another time when I begin to give one-on-one lessons or have online classes. So there's different techniques and breathing meditations that you use. What they call the dragon breath, or deep breaths, or breathing in through the different nostrils, the alternating breath technique. So there's many different breath methods that you can use in order for you to stimulate the release of DMT in your brain. It's possible. Remember that the breath is what they call the espirito. It's prana. It's what they call chi. It's life force. So when you watch anime or many of these different types of anime, and they always talk about breathing a certain way, and then you see the energy field around the person begin to grow. In some anime they call it an aura, in some animation they call it a super saiyan, but what all of that is the expansion of the energy field, or the expansion of the aura of the particular individual. Because remember, you have multiple bodies. We said this, you have layers. You have your physical body, and then within the next step to the physical body is the template to the physical body, which is the ethereal body, which is where now you begin to see the aura around people. So for the gifted, or for those who have opened the third eye, when they look at people, they can see the aura around them, which is an energy. You can see this energy, especially if you look at someone against a plain background. You could see a light around them. That is someone's aura. So now, when DMT is released, it causes you to bridge time and space. This is why when people have near-death experiences, they can see their whole life flash before their eyes, because in that moment there is a huge amount of DMT that is released. Remember that the chakras are worlds, they are fields of informations, they are dimensions within themselves, and the higher up you go, the more that time and space don't follow the rules of the lower dimensions. So up here, up in these higher fields, time and space begin to slow down. They really begin to slow down, because in the near-death experience, what happens is that the spirit, remember that when you're born, the spirit enters in through the crown. And when you leave the physical, it exits through the crown, through what they call the frontalicus. I forgot the scientific name, but that soft spot by a baby that you see going like boop, 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 boop. When a newborn baby is born, that part, that's where the soul enters, and also that's where the soul leaves when someone exits the physical. So now in a near-death experience, the particular spirit of the person would be in a state of exiting, but then doesn't fully exit, and then now causes that person to have the visual experiences that they would have if they were to leave, because it said that when you do leave, what you have are the recalling of records of the immediate life that you just lived. So when you die, what you do is that you have a recalling of the records of your recent life in order for you to view, the things that you did right and the things that you did wrong. You review your lessons, but from a different dimension. So now that's what these particular substances help you to do, but while you are still living in a physical body. So now, let's start with this. When you take in magic mushrooms, we said that it is psilocybin turned to psilocin, which causes you now to stop, or causes the body to stop the enzymes that inhibit DMT, right? It causes the body to stop that enzyme. And so now a huge amount of DMT is released within the brain. And then that activates the both sides of the hemispheres, so left brain and right brain. On a daily basis, most people are only functioning on the logical side of things. So they only see things from a logical side of things. The right brain is not so active. So they not tapped into the full brain. You're only using little parts of the brain. But it said that when you are releasing particular DMT, or when you are on a certain substance such as magic mushrooms, the whole brain functions as a whole. So on an everyday basis, to give an example, you would be like someone playing a guitar over there, and then someone is playing the piano way over there, and then someone else is playing the drums way over there. But then when you now on magic mushrooms, what happens is that, or when you take deep breathing meditations, the whole brain begins to function as a whole. So that would be now where you get the guy who leads the choir, you know. So you call in the drummer, you put him here, you call in the guy playing the guitar, you call in the guy playing the piano, and then you begin to, so now it makes one beautiful functioning brain. The brain doesn't function in fragments, it functions as a whole. This is why now people experience what they call ego death, because the ego is mostly based in the left side. It's logical, it's self-centered, it's me. But when you are on these particular substances, and also remember that it's dependent on the dosages. It's depending on the type of dosages that you intake, which will determine what type of experience that you have. Obviously, in the lower dosages of magic mushrooms, you will begin to have a little bit of feeling like, hey, something here is happening. And then the higher up you go into your 2 grams, into your 3 grams, your life begins to take on a more lucid function. And then when you go into the 4, 5, 6 grams, that's what is termed off or termed as the heroic dose or the shamanic dose by Terence McKenna, which is another guy which you should look up if you want to learn more about magic mushrooms. So your brain releases this DMT in different quantities. It releases it in different quantities, which is what allows you to now tap into the dimensions of yourself in order to see reality from what you would call fresh eyes, or because when you're on these particular substances, you see life not from this dull, mundane. Life becomes, all of a sudden, it becomes colorful. All of a sudden, it makes sense. All of a sudden, you understand the oneness of things between you and yourself. The veil of separation goes away on these particular substances. They go away. So you have what is called an ego death, because the ego is me, myself, and I. So when you are on these substances, the ego is pushed to the back, and then you see the relation between you and yourself, which is what you should be seeing anyway, but then you are veiled. You are veiled because, number one, you breathe too shallow. The food that we are eating is not good for us. You know, all the things that we are watching, the music that we're listening to is not good for us. So now what these substances do is that they bring you back to you. They bring you back to yourself and say, hey, look, it's okay. You're okay. This is what life is. You're meant to live it. You're meant to be happy. That's why people come out of these particular ceremonies feeling new and fresh, and oh my God, I know the meaning of life. And people come out of it not fearing death, because in those states they get to really see, they get to be removed from the mundane. So magic mushrooms, ayahuasca is also similar, because how ayahuasca functions though is that, unlike magic mushrooms, which you could just go and pick them from the ground, but don't just go and pick any mushrooms, because mushrooms are very unique. You know, they're a fungi. You know, actually, it's very interesting that magic or mushrooms are more related to humans than they are to plants, because they breathe oxygen. So we have more in common with mushrooms than mushrooms have with plants. So that's why there's this ancient, mystical, cosmic connection between us and them, because they are alive. They are an intelligence. They're intelligent. Some people say that they come from other dimensions. There's another psychonaut, or another man, another legend, another lord who has passed on, Kalindi. Kalindi, you should also check him out. But he was insane because he used to take magic mushrooms in the 30, 40 grams, and I couldn't even begin to imagine what happens in your mind there. Because understand one thing, it's not just for fun, it's not a recreational thing. It's something that shows you God. And it shows you God as you. And sometimes that could be very scary. So you need to be in the right state of mind, in the right state of emotion. You need to be in the right place. It's not something that you take and you go to a party, because that's what people do. You know, I'm gonna take this gram and go to a party. You could do that, but then you are not really experiencing them for what they are, because they are a mirror. And then when you come to them in the form of respect, and you set up your room, and you set up how you're gonna take this particular ritual, they look at you and you look at them, and then now when you're on the experience, it's a whole different ball game, and the reality shifts. And it's actually interesting, because when you are on or when you are in these particular dimensions, when you are tripping, these states seem more real than this state. They seem more real. You remember things that you know, but for some reason in your waking state, you're just not vibrating there in order for you to remember. But when you are on those states, they feel like home. It feels familiar to you. There's that feeling of, I know this, I remember this, I know this. I've been here before. I know this feeling. You feel this oneness with people. So now with ayahuasca, what happens is that there's two things that are involved. So they take, number one, so there's a leaf of a particular plant of one tree that has DMT inside. Right? This is another thing that baffled scientists, because when they went to the Amazon and they asked the shamans, they're like, how did you guys know to mix these two specific trees? Because they take leaves from one tree and then, you know, they crush it up, and then that contains DMT. But if you drink that alone, you wouldn't trip. You wouldn't have this experience. The hallucination wouldn't take place, because again, your body has that enzyme which is gonna chow that DMT away. So what they do is that they found roots from another tree, and it's only that specific root that they mix in with that. And now, so when you drink that, the roots cancels out those enzymes, and so now that's what allows you to trip. So now that's what scientists also couldn't figure out. So when they asked the shamans and say, how did you guys know that it was these two specific trees, because there are thousands of species of trees? The shamans were like, the trees told us. The trees told us. This is how mystical, this is how deep, this is how profound we and nature are. We are synchronized. We are one thing. But we have forgotten over the thousands of years. And so now these plants are teachers. They are reminders. They are teachers, and they are tools. They are not something which you should use as a crutch to escape reality. No, they show you reality, true reality, and say, hey, look, it's not just about you. Life is bigger than your everyday troubles. It's bigger than all of these things that you find or you think are so important. No, you're here to be and to live. And you have a much more deeper appreciation of life, of being, of living, of breathing, of walking, of being able to function, of being able to talk, to hear, to dance, whatever it is that you love to do. You have a much more deeper appreciation of life, of the journey of your soul. This is what these substances are there for. They are teachers, they are guides for you. But they are not, as I said, things that you could use as a crutch. And don't go to them seeking to bypass and to seek enlightenment as if like now when you had this, oh, now you are enlightened. No, as I said, they are tools. You should always be aiming. And in fact, I urge you to do breath techniques, to go for breathing meditations, to walk out in nature sober and sober minded and ground yourself and connect with nature. So that when that energy rises up, it comes up naturally. Don't use them as an escape from reality. In fact, I don't even think that that's possible. But then you would have to really be in a clear mind, in a clear state, have a clear heart, have a good setting, have a good mindset, because we humans, we have tendencies to want to escape, and they are much more heavier drugs in life, because I don't like even this term that they call these natural substances drugs. Food, those are your biggest drugs. Food, your television, your soft drinks, all these things, those are the most dangerous but the most legal of drugs. Alcohol, these cigarettes that people smoke, but then they're legal. So you have to ask yourself, why would they make things that kill people legal? Because I don't think the government is not interested in people growing spiritually. They're not interested in people knowing themselves. They're not interested in the Christ cultivating within you. They always want to give you a new hero. They always want to give you someone else outside of yourself who's going to come and save you. There's always someone else that's coming to save you. But they never point to you. They never tell you how special you are. They never tell you that, because once you know that everything that all these messiahs and beings that have been throughout the eons, everything that they've been teaching, all these abilities, you have them inside of you. The psychic ability, the ability to know prophecy, visions. You have this. It's innate. These are gifts that are just dormant within you, and in certain states and in certain vibratory levels, when you tap in, you can see them, and you become psychic. You become psychic. You can see visions. You can see dreams. You become lucid, and that's what these particular substances do. They give you the lucidity to life. You become lucid. It's a spiritual experience. It's not something that you go do for fun. No, these are states where you come into self, where you come in to see God, and I won't always say that it's an easy thing, because reality could be, in fact, reality will flip like this. But then when it does flip like that, you'll see that it's actually beautiful. So it's shadow work. That's what they are. It's shadow work. You go into self. You go into your subconscious. Your trauma is brought to you, your face. It's brought right there to you. You see yourself truly, not from, you don't become, the ego moves and you're not defensive. It's almost as if that you are communicating with this intelligence, or with these intelligences that know you, that really know you for who you are. Your pride, your fears, your doubts, they are presented to you, but also in a humorous way, in a very funny and in a very therapeutic, in a very, you cannot even put a feeling to it. You cannot put words to it. I mean, you can't tell someone how it feels. They can only feel it when they're in that state, like, oh, this makes sense. There's a voice. There's voices. Ancient, beautiful, ancestral, godly voices, angelic voices then you would wonder if they are external or internal. Is it your own mind? Is it something else? But then again, what's interesting is that your body, as I said, your mind, your brain releases DMT naturally. So now what these substances do is that they become a tool. They become a tool where if for 15 years or for 10 years or for any amount of time that you were to be, let's say, doing certain breath techniques, which you should be doing, it would quicken the process, because these are states that are natural to you. It's states that are natural to you. Sometimes, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but like, let's say you're bending down and you see a quick flash of light, or you see, or you'll be sleeping and then you thought that you're awake, but you're actually sleeping. So, so there's many different dimensions to you. But in summary, I would say that the states that you tap into when you are dreaming is what you tap into, but while awake, on these substances. So you are dreaming, but while lucid, you're lucid dreaming. You're dreaming, but while awake. You see, and so now that's the mystery of life. That's the mystery of life, because your life is a dream. It's the dream of God. God is dreaming of you. God is experiencing you as you. But you caught up in your name, you caught up in your job, you caught up in your problems, you caught up in your troubles, in your family problems, in your relationship problems, that you forget the deeper meaning of life. You forget that you are here to love. You forget that you are here to live, to laugh, to enjoy. And all of these challenges, money, and they are natural. You're gonna face them. You can't escape. You don't try to escape reality. You have to live, you have to eat, you have to function as a human. But you don't necessarily have to suffer while you're on the planet. You're not here to suffer. Challenges will always be there, but you are not here to suffer. You are not, God doesn't want you to suffer. You will be challenged, because challenges, those are good. They make you strong. They make you strong. They make you sharp. You have wisdom. You have emotional intelligence. When people act a certain way, you don't just react, you observe. Because when you look at life, most people, they are so caught up in themselves. They are so caught up in their egos. Everything is about them. It's about me. It's me. And they've forgotten that life is it's a symbiosis. It's a symbiosis. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. Trees take in the carbon dioxide and then they give us oxygen. So it's in and out. There's a synthesis to life. There's a connection. We are not separate from nature. So now these tools become a reminder to let you know that, hey, it's not just about you. There's a connection. There's a connection to life that we have. So you need to, or you will be asked, or you will be shown that, hey, you are a prideful person, or you are an angry person, or you are a lustful person, or you are a jealous person. And these are things that you need to work on. Shadow work. You need to work on these things. They're not just gonna disappear. The fact that you have a body means that there's mental issues, there's generational traumas, there's things that have happened to your ancestors that are happening to you that you have to fix, because it's passed on generationally. There's certain generational curses that you must break. You must break those generational curses. It could be anything from having a short temper, or it could be, in fact, it could be from whatever it is. So once in a while, you need to sit with yourself and ask yourself, what are my shortcomings? What do I lack as an individual? And then you begin to work on that. Because if you don't do that, then you will always be reacting to life and you will not create life consciously. And don't mistaken comfort for the end goal. You know, just because you have a house, just because you have a car and you have a job, doesn't mean that that's it, that you've reached the end goal. No. Those you may have material success, but be spiritually dead inside. And so what you need to do is resurrect your spiritual self, your spiritual life. That's the most important thing, your connection to source. And so now these tools bring you that opportunity that opportunity to see yourself from a different perspective outside of your own ego. And so now when you read holy texts and they say, when you pray, go into a dark room, what they're actually talking about is going inside of yourself. Greater is he who is within me. Greater is he. So the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Christ consciousness, it is in you, but it is dormant. It's dormant. It's not just automatic. Yeah, sure, you are a child of God, so you are created. You have these qualities, but they are not activated. So that's why there's what they call fruits of the flesh and fruits of the spirit. You see, so most of us, we caught up in our own activities, you know. Yeah, me. And so you're missing the point of life. You're missing the point. You see, so dimethyltryptamine, dimensions. You'll be tripping into dimensions of yourself. You are tripping. You're tripping. Going into different states. So there's different methods and techniques, breathing techniques, different methods. Being calm, meditation. They put you in these states naturally because you have this substance naturally, it's released in your brain. In the Bible, they speak about Moses going into the desert and eating the food of the gods, what they call manna. Manna. Your brain releases something called CFS or CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Now this spinal fluid, what it does is that it goes, actually watch a video I did. Let me not go into that here. Watch a video I did about the Christ oil, or I forgot what it's called. But there's a video that I did where I explained what happens in your brain when this particular substance is released, and it bathes the whole body in this cerebrospinal fluid. And it travels, how it travels up the spine and all of that. So DMT actually moves through the cerebrospinal fluid all throughout the blood. It goes into your body. You see, so now this was just an introduction into this particular topic, into this particular subject. Probably we'll do another one in detailing what really happens now when you take different dosages of these particular substances. Because hey, it gets real. It really gets real. And if you are not strong-minded, if you are not emotionally balanced, it could go left. But I will tell you one thing, that your alcohol, all these, man, like, they are just, it's sad that most people will never get to have the psychedelic experience in their lifetime, because it is one of the most beautiful things that any human being can experience. It is amazing, but it's something that you have to go in with a mind of, it could get real. And most people get scared. Oh, am I gonna run? Am I gonna go crazy? No. You're more conscious even in those states. You're more aware. So your awareness becomes multiplied. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know? Oh man, I wish I could tell a story about the first time that I did a heroic dose. It was insane. It was amazing. It was I remember just giving I remember I was so oh man, cause I had my Kundalini experience, and so I thought, I'm like, man, I've been through. I think I think I'm, you know, I was like, you know, I'm gonna do this, prepared, you know, everything. It was winter time. I remember even I had like some crystals on my body. So I remember this one time, after that I was laying, right, just waiting for them to kick in, and I'm laying there, and so now I'm starting to feel the room spin, and there's this feeling of euphoria coming over me. And so I think to myself, I say, let me move these crystals, so that I could go into a fetus position, because now I could feel that, whoa, something is happening, like, whoa, something is happening. So I'm laying down, I take my, I hope I'm still recording. So I'm laying down, right? So I take my hands to remove the crystals from my head, and as I reach, what felt like 10 minutes later, I felt something touch my forehead, and I almost panicked. I'm like, what's touching my forehead? And I was like, oh my word, it's my hand. It's my hand, it's my hand. My hand is only reaching my forehead now. I thought I did that 10 minutes. Ooh, and then that's when time began. Like, that's when I began to see that, oh, time is distorted. Because what felt like 10 minutes later, only my hand. And so I remember I was like, I removed them, and then I turned to the side, and just that slow turning, I just felt, whoa. And then there were these voices that came to me in such a beautiful, they were like, hey, 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 hey. I was like, whoa. You see, as clear as you hear my voice right now, that's how I heard these voices. I'm like, hey, hey, hey. And so I'm laying there, and then it's like almost as if they were whispering. They were like, we can't believe you were so nervous to take us. And I was like, whoa, who are these beings? And they're like, yo, we so cool that kids should be taking us every other Friday. I'm like, whoa. And then I laughed. I'm like, whoa, this is hilarious. So I started laughing, and then, oh man, I was like, whoa, they were so welcoming. And especially in your first trip. Oh man, because they want you. That's the thing. They want you to experience them. They want you to experience you. That's the funny thing. It's that they like, come here, come see yourself, and then you see yourself in these geometric, man. There's like this geometry moving, and sound is, it's so euphoric, and oh man, like sounds become colorful, colors become sounds, but there's a language that you can understand, but it's not vocal, but you can understand it. It's so trippy. And in more trips, and that's in the first trip, in other trips, because every trip is different, you know. And in other trips, they sit down with you and be like, all right, let's see your issues, bro. Huh? But they do it in this very caring and loving way. But then they show you things that like, oh, okay, I guess I'm a douchebag. You know, oh man, I get, you know, they show you these things about yourself, like, oh, okay, I should work on that. You know, they show you like how you treat people, the smallest things, the things that you think are the smallest things. I remember this other time, there was a lady that like I had some argument with, and I tripped that night, and I felt what it was to be her in the moment that she was confronting me. Okay, because we were at work and she was asking me if I'm mad about her at something, because I heard that like they were saying some things, and so I was like, I'm no longer gonna talk to these people. And so she came to me because she liked me, and she was like, she was like a very this cool lady at work. But I was like, how could she? And then she came to me, she's like, are you mad at me? I was like, no. So at night, I remember it was a day where I've been planning a trip for a while. So when I tripped, in that moment when she confronted me, I was taken to the moment where I was her asking me if I'm mad at her or if I'm mad at me. So I felt what it was to be her in that moment, and I could feel her pain of me being mad at her, and I was like, whoa, that what? And actually what's interesting is that when you go deep into the study of what happens in the afterlife, that's actually what happens. Because when a soul leaves earth, what they experience is the reverse. So you experience you, but from other people's perspectives. And then so when you leave earth, you experience you, but from other people's perspectives. So that either now is going to become your heaven or your hell. So how you treated people here is going to get quantified, or it's going to be multiplied a thousandfold, and you're going to experience the joy that you gave to people from their experience. You're going to experience you, but from other people's eyes. So the joy or the pain that you gave comes back to you, not as a punishment, but as a balancing of the scales, to show you, to tip it like this and to balance it. And with that, then it gets imprinted on your soul. And then in your next incarnation, either on earth or in a different dimension, you take these lessons with you. So some things you experience them here on earth, an ego death. You don't have to die necessarily physically. You can experience them while alive, and that's what these psychedelics do. They put you in these states. They put you in a state where you get to, and then you come back into life. You see it. You see it from a crown chakra level. You see it from a higher, a higher field. So family, peace, love, and light to you. This is just part one. I wanted to make it 10 minutes, but there's so much that bam. But I'm going to say this. I'm not saying go and take them or don't do them. But if you gonna do them, be safe. Make sure you're set and your setting is right. Do your research. Talk to the relevant person. Do your relevant research. And I won't say, as I'm saying, I'm just an information provider. I'm just an information provider. I'm not a doctor, or I'm just giving you information from my personal experience and from my knowledge from the traveling, and also from research and from reading. There's also a good book. Where is it? Book. Oh, there it is. There's this great book that my queen ordered this book some years ago, 2 years ago, like 3 years ago, by Dr. Bruce Bynum, Edward Bruce Bynum, PhD. She ordered it from the States via what is this whole thing? Amazon. She got it on Amazon. It's called Dark Light Consciousness, Melanin, Serpent Power, and the Luminous Matrix of Reality. So in this book, they also speak about what happens when you raise the serpentine energy, when this energy goes up into the it's a very beautiful book. It's got it's got pictures. I don't know if you can, okay, let me do this. It's a very beautiful book. It's got like pictures of the brain. It shows you it shows you different geometric patterns and symbols and different meditations. You know, it's a very amazing book. I enjoyed this book so much. And it also speaks about DMT, what happens in the brain. It also speaks about what happens when the Kundalini rises within individuals and the levels that it gets to rise to, you know. So yeah, family, as I said, peace, love, and light. And okay, I'll make this announcement next time. But I'm so thankful to you because actually, you know, this channel is actually growing, and it's having a deeper impact in people's lives than I thought. Like, people are like, oh man, you changed my life, or you helped me do this. And I'm like, what? Me change your life? Just gave information or something. Like, what did I do? You know, so it's really impacting people. You know, it's really impacting people, and I'm grateful that I'm very honored to get to have such a great influence, or to be a guide or a reminder. Because remember, once again, that you chose me to be in this lifetime, at this point in your life, one who gets to be a reminder on certain things and certain topics. So it's an honor and it's a pleasure, and I'm grateful that you learn and you grow, and you get to see the ins and the outs from my own experiences. But remember that you must experience these things personally for yourself, you know, because that's all I can ever be, a guide, you know, just a reminder. But it's your journey to walk. No one can walk it for you. Not your friend, not your girlfriend, not your boyfriend, not your parents, not your brother. No one but you. No Messiah outside. No, you are the Messiah. You are the messenger. You are the hero. You are the Buddha. You know, and then collectively we the oversoul of humanity is the Christ. So thank you. Don't forget to check out my podcast. I'm also releasing now information on my podcast. You could find it on Spotify on Awakening Conversations with Mathix. You could also find it on Anchor. I recently released a very nice episode called Becoming the Hero in Your Own Movie, in Your Own Reality. So that's a very great episode that you should go check out on Spotify. Yeah. Peace, love, and light to you all, family. And remember to remember who you are. Remember to remember who you are. Peace. Until next time, much love. That was a good one, right? That was good.